Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Ninja Turtles channel. I'm very happy and proud to be joined by a Ninja Turtles legend, the one of the creators behind the Turtle Power documentary that came out a while back, Isaac Elliott-Fisher. Welcome.
Thank you. Here I am.
I'm very happy to have you here. I love the Turtle Power documentary. It came out about 10 years ago. This was a big deal for Ninja Turtles fans. I wanted to thank you on behalf of all Ninja Turtles fans. And I also wanted to spread the word that a sequel, a follow up to Turtle Power, is in the works. I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet, but I think it's going to be a documentary miniseries. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm happy to talk to you.
Likewise. No, I thank you very much, and it's our pleasure. I can't believe it's almost been 10 years since they came out, which means that we've been doing this for like 15 years. For 15 years now. I can't do Splinter. I just can't. But
Wow. What a history. Yeah, you guys are legends in the Ninja Turtles community. I even used to listen to the Shell Shocked podcast. You were a part of that, right?
yeah, that's going back. Holy cow.
That had some
Yeah.
great interviews with some, Ninja Turtles heavy hitters, great old podcasts, and definitely inspired me to create a channel and get into the Ninja Turtles community a little bit more. So thanks for all that.
Awesome.
How did you get into Turtles? As a kid, did you watch the cartoon or play with the toys or something?
It was toys for me. I didn't have cable a lot because we would, for some reason, my family would turn it off in the summer. I don't know. They thought that was a good idea. So to be honest, I know I must have seen the cartoon. My only vivid memory of the cartoon being on air for myself was seeing the credits because it was the disappointment that I had just missed it. So it's like you turn on the
Mm,
TV and oh, the Turtles credits are already rolling. So it's like oh, missed it. But yeah, I it was one of those things as as so many people of our generation can attest to. There's that kind of specific feeling to those memories where when those toys were discovered in the sandbox at the neighbor's house across the road, and it was around, it was everywhere, it was something to be part of, it was something to like. There was almost like that's that thing that toy makers want out of toys where there's that secret that everybody that you feel like you have, like
hmm
even though it's mass market, you feel like this is your little thing. I
hmm
think Turtles had a very specific, it nailed that very well, and it was something to do with its indiness and even the packaging art and things like that. I think it felt underground, it felt subversive, it felt like this was your thing, but you were also part of a really big community and you wanted to know more. Like looking at the packaging, I just remember that feeling of wanting to dig in more, or even just like the cards and bubblegum cards and stuff like that. Just there was something to consume at all levels. So yeah, for me, it was definitely the toys and the product and the general zeitgeist of the time that
Nice.
had to suck me in, right? So
Yeah, Turtle Mania was everywhere, and the Turtles definitely
yeah,
balance their like you said, it has that indie aspect to it a little bit, like a garage band almost, and it's
yeah,
relatable to an extent. With all the different Turtles personalities, they're all relatable, and I know kids could find themselves in any one of the characters, and it's really cool.
totally.
You took your fandom to the next level and decided to make the documentary a while back. How'd you get into filmmaking?
Well, I think I always was in filmmaking. I don't think I ever didn't. I was even as a little kid, I got my hands on a really, really old film camera, and somehow my dad, through the like local like still camera store, found film for it, which actually was long out of print by the time. Like nobody was making, 8 millimeter film for 8 millimeter cameras of that type anymore. But for some reason, they found some, and I was doing like stop motion movies with toys in the living room at like age 8 or something. So I almost always had some sort of camera, and then into my preteen and teen years, we had like a video camera, and I was just always doing stuff. But it wasn't until a very specific teacher in high school that you kind of realize, oh, this can be a career, and you can go into the media arts, and this that journey of getting into the film business and going to film school. But even before I went to film school, I had a cousin who had a videography company, which was basically just like doing corporate commercials and stuff. And so I started working for him. And at the time, we're talking early 2000s, there was this, you were still in that era before the sort of mass democratization of cameras and everybody's creating content. You didn't have YouTube yet, you didn't have that kind of stuff. So there were still like these direct to video documentaries that were documentaries. It would be like, somebody's really into classic snowmobiles, which is sounds very
Hmm.
Canadian, but there's like let's say classic snowmobiles or classic cars or something, and you'd go out and you'd do like a documentary about this, which really didn't have a lot of documentary content. It was mostly just footage of those things like the snowmobile or whatever. And so there was my cousin's company had made a bunch of these, and they would sell them through the mail. And I thought, you know what, I could do that. But I was really obsessed with Toyota Land Cruisers, which is like a very specific 4x4
Hmm.
vehicle that Toyota's made for a long time. And I thought, I'm going to go out across North America and I'm going to film this documentary about Toyota Land Cruisers. And I did that by myself at like 19 before film school. And I went through film school after that. But the long story short is that kind of established this idea that if I took things that I was passionate about, and it's not that I ever wanted to be a documentary filmmaker per se, I wanted to work in real movies and, be the next James Cameron or whatever. And so I think that idea that you could take something I was interested in and make a story, like tell a story of how it came to be and its story, like the story behind it. And it was through college of rediscovering turtles and the turtles' origin and how it really was invented in the comic books and that kind of thing at film school that I went, you know what, I'm going to really get into collecting this. And the more I got into it, the more I wanted to know more. And I mean, the Technodrome forums and stuff like that were around at the time, and you could start to kind of dig into it. But there really wasn't any pop culture nostalgia documentaries at all yet. So I started pushing this idea of what if we did this, and I was coming out of film school at the time, 2008, and I went to some guys that were much older than me that from my hometown, very very small town, way out in rural Ontario, Canada, and I said, we were doing some music videos and different things like that. And I said, let's do a documentary about the turtles. And one of my partners was like, no. And the other guy was like, yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea. And, neither of them grew up with it. Randall Lobb had he'd seen the comic when it first came out. And he got the joke. He got
Hmm.
the, like, this is, this is Ronin, this is that, and all that stuff. And, so anyway, he saw that and thought it was sort of funny, the Frank Miller influences and Jack Kirby and stuff. But he thought, what? All of us thought, if you have 1,000 fans of something, you can kind of make a go of selling it directly. So we thought, okay, let's just go and sell. We'll make a documentary with turtle fans, and we'll go sell to them, basically. Um, and of course, the long story short is that then it just snowballed into becoming this huge thing.
Wow.
It took 5 years to produce, and it came out in 2014, and here we are still
That's
working
so
on it.
cool. That's so cool how the your love of the turtles and your love of filmmaking, how they just naturally intertwine and it just came about.
Yeah,
It was something you just wanted to do. It was almost effortless. It took a lot of effort, of course, but it was
yeah,
something you were just doing for yourself and
yeah.
for fun.
It all fell into place. It's like that weird Venn diagram thing. It was just like things were meshing in the right time, right place, and then for physical media and distribution was still you were right before that system collapsed. You could still get DVDs out there and people were looking for them. Now it's radically different. Like it's
Hmm.
changed in those last 10 years, those last 9 years, like huge changes. So watching that happen, but of course we didn't expect it to come out the way it did. We thought we were going to have it out in the 25th anniversary in 2009, but of course then everything changed when Peter sold it to Viacom, and then we were tied to the new what was going to become the new Paramount movie. We were tied internally to that, and then we watched that thing go through all of its ebbs and flows and changes, and then Platinum Dunes and Michael Bay come on board, and that kind of thing changed it. And so we weren't on set for that and weren't covering that because it kind of all pulled apart. But then Paramount realized it was probably a good idea to buy this documentary that was sitting there, and then we just had to deliver it really quickly, and we couldn't really put everything in it that we had. And then of course at that point, Kevin and Peter, and I'm probably getting into your kind of some of your next questions here is how we evolved this new stage. But Kevin and Peter decided to do a signing together for the first time in 20 years or something, at Rochester, New York, at the same place that they signed together when the first Turtle book came out. And so we decided, even though we had handed the film into Paramount, let's go get some footage of them doing that, and maybe we can sneak some of the footage into the end of it, because you're still going through like the quality control
Hmm.
processes when you hand a film in. And so we knew we could sneak some footage in, but we couldn't really alter the edit. So we went and got that, And then we ended up staying for 2 days, and through a series of events, Peter and Kevin decided not only to have done the signing, but they said, well, we're here, we've got the cameras. They've never together gone back to the place where their house was, where they lived together in Dover, New Hampshire, which is 20 minutes away from where we were, um, together. So they hadn't done that since. So we said, you know what, let's stay another day. And we went down there with them. And it was incredible, because I said, here, I'll put a microphone on you, but I don't know, we can't put it in the film, but let's see what happens. And so they walked around for like an hour or two, reminiscing. This is where the living room was. This is where we invented Shredder. This is this. This is that. And like I say, they hadn't spent more than 2 minutes with each other for 20 years. So that
Wow.
moment was so, everybody's crying behind the camera. It was so beautiful. But we had all that footage, and it was just sitting there, and we're like, well, gee, now what?
Yeah.
So,
That's a pretty special moment. You don't want to leave that one on
yeah,
the editing room floor. And already condensing
for
30 years worth of history into an hour and a half movie. That's definitely a moment you want to include. The two guys getting back together, the two co-creators.
That's right. And other than, if you watch really carefully at the end of that first documentary, there's footage of them signing together at Steve Levine's comic store, or he had an art store at the time called Shellback, and they were signing in that top floor. And we have like a title card that comes on screen. I can't remember what it says. It's like, after X amount of time, they decided to, and there's this poignant music and everything. And if anybody makes it all the way through the end credits on that first doc, there's an Easter egg at the end. And the Easter egg is the two of them walking down a sidewalk in front of an empty lot, and then that original house kind of ghosts in behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Easter egg to say, we did this, but we couldn't put it in here because, and if any criticism was given on that first doc, it was that, where's the 2003 show? Where's the second movie? Where's the third movie? Where's this? Where's that? I mean, like you just said, how do you condense at the time 20, 30 years of history at that time into a 98-minute film? It
Yeah, I
was
saw.
almost impossible.
I see some of those. Yeah, of course it's impossible. You see those complaints online every now. Oh, the definitive
Yeah,
history. Yeah, of
definitive.
course. It's it's a lot of history to jam into an hour and a half. But
Yeah,
you guys
and I
did a
mean,
wonderful job.
yeah, and even to defend that slightly, and not that I should spend all that time, but even the definitive aspect is these are the people. Like, it's them. It's
This is
definitively
it.
them. It's they're the people who this happened to. They're the people who created these things. They're the ones saying it. So that was always our, because you can never fulfill the totality of, let's get every single voice cast, and let's get everything this, and something that I've often find over the years is that people, they want to know specific things, but the truth is that the answers to some of those questions aren't as interesting as they'd like to think they are.
Hmm.
So if I was going to include that into a film, why would I say spend time focusing on things that don't have, broadly interesting answers or interesting things to look at, when it was really just, a mistake in the edit in the original 1990s movie? And why is it that Michelangelo's voice or Raphael's voice is here? And it's like, well, the answer is sort of a silly answer. Like,
Yeah.
why would I include that in the film? So it is funny how that kind of comes out. And I mean, and nowadays we live in a very strange time of, no, I shouldn't say strange. I mean, I actually enjoy the content being created by a lot of, awesome online creators who do these truncated versions of history, where they take like a narration voice of themselves, and they show some stuff. Oftentimes they use footage from our film, like the
Hmm.
archive that we pulled together, and they'll pull pieces from it, and they'll do like a condensed version of the turtles history. The risk there, though, I find, is that sometimes facts get spoken incorrectly, or a legend or a myth or a rumor perpetuates in the sort of YouTube sphere long enough that people believe that that's the actual canon history.
Hmm.
But when we've spent as much time as we have, and have as much access as we have, and know all of the players as well as we do personally, you start to kind of formulate a mass amount of information that I can connect so many dots to each other and say, well, actually, here's what really happened. But that's not the story that's out there.
Hmm.
And that can be good and that can be bad. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. Sometimes the urban legends, they pick up steam and they have a life of their own. So that's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, a lot of good
exactly.
work. The first documentary turned out great, and for the second one, all that history, almost 30 years of documentary history, like 30 years of Ninja Turtle history. It's 40 years of Turtle history now.
Yeah.
Is the new documentary miniseries, is it going to be new footage since 2014, or is some of it unused footage from the first documentary?
It's like, and that's the thing. We're actually, we're a lot of these debates internally between the three business partners is we oftentimes, I get super self-conscious about because I'm a cinematographer. Well, the three of us have like very specific roles, but we kind of all share all the hats. And so I'm the cinematographer and a story editor and the researcher, but then there's, the three of us. And so I get self-conscious about the fact that we're using such a smorgasbord of content. Like this interview looks like this interview was shot however many 15 years ago, this interview was shot last year, so you've got different technologies of cameras.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some self-shot interviews that are like shot literally on like an iPhone and sent in because we couldn't travel during the pandemic. And so like it's a big mixed bag. So the focus, without, because I mean, it's not that I'm giving away what will be. The thing that I'm hesitant about is that I can't promise that this is how it will end up, because if as you get into distribution, we might things change, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't promise that it will exactly look the way I'm going to say it, but there is the idea is that we have a lot of content that didn't get into the first film. A lot has happened since the first film because that film was coming out when like the 2012 show was happening, and then Rise happened and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we continued shooting in those years. We finally kind of got inside access into Nickelodeon and shot an enormous amount of stuff inside the fifth season of the 2012 show, and in the production start of the Rise, we got a ton of inside stuff. A lot of all of the fifth season was completely animated in Canada, so it was easy for us to get out to Vancouver and see like on the ground. Here is from concept to completion, every stage of that 2012 show we could show. There
Mm-hmm.
it is. So we have a lot of that, but at the same time, there is an enormous amount of say fandom that maybe has never even come across our first documentary. So we've very carefully kind of retold some of it from new angles,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. So maybe people will find the first episode is this is treading a lot of the same ground. But if you notice, it's very carefully going, yeah, but here's another angle, here's another person, or here's something you didn't see the first time, or here's
Mm-hmm.
a deleted scene you didn't see, or an interview that we didn't have. So we can kind of do that, and then the second episode we can look at other things we didn't cover, and then go on from there. And so it is an opportunity for us to look at like the sort of the thesis behind this new three-parter, at least if not more, is to look at the evolution of brands, or this brand, so you can see what happens when you take something that's very pure that these two guys created based on their love of different IP, and then watch how that new people get added and a new people get added and a new people get added. And every time new ideas come in, it shifts and changes and pushes and pulls the idea of what the turtles are.
Mm-hmm.
And then what works and what doesn't work is kind of what we're exploring.
Yeah, that's
Because
neat.
some
I think,
iterations work better than others.
yeah, a lot of different iterations, and you mentioned there's like a patchwork, like a quilt, almost different
Yeah.
qualities of video shot in different places, just like the turtles. I mean, there's been a lot of different
Yeah.
versions of the turtles, and you're gonna have
Yeah.
apparently a lot of different versions of video in it's a three-part documentary
Yeah.
series.
At this point, it is. Yeah. I hope, like I say, I hope that's how it comes out at the end of the day. It's like 3 1 hours. So there's a lot of stuff to cover there, a lot
Nice.
more room to cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the miniseries format might be a little bit better and allow you to spread out and give a little breathing room instead of jamming it all in a 90-minute movie. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because even though, it can be the same sort of length, once you can breathe out into different spaces, you can spend more time, like you say, with an idea. Like we oftentimes pointed at with the first documentary, like everybody was at the time, especially, they're all like, where's the special edition of 1990 film? Where's the behind the scenes of 1990 film? Where's the director's cut of the 1990 film? Because there was that legend that VHS somewhere existed somewhere of this director's cut that was
mhm.
somehow radically different. And essentially, we delivered the only making of that first film, because there really is only one camera or two cameras, but nobody knows where the second tape is, of footage shot on set behind the scenes of that film. So we delivered that in that first doc, and I thought, there's your behind the scenes. But I wanted it to take up more room. But like you said, a 98-minute film, how much time am I going to give to just the 1990 film when I still have to talk about comics, and I still have to talk about cartoons, and I still have to talk about what happened after the 1990 film and cultural relevance and all this type of thing. So it's a very, very important piece. But then, of course, people would say, then we just say, then there was a second film, then there was a third film.
Yeah.
So, but the truth is that those second and third films are actually wonderful stories to explore
Hmm.
in and of themselves. So this time, we're able to say that, yeah, we have Steve Barron, we have Stuart Gillard on the third film, and we have Michael on the second film. So like we have all three directors. We have
Wow.
a lot more to talk about the in depth and even the things that they were trying to do inside of number two is actually going to be sort of surprising, I think, to a lot of people that think that number two is just this crass commercial silly exercise that's sort of dumb. It was actually, no, this had a lot of depth behind it, and it's actually it surprised me when we did the edit. I was like, wow, okay, this elevated number two, it elevated Secret of the Ooze to a new level. I think
Yeah, that's
so.
cool. There's an interesting story
Yeah,
behind all these projects, I'm sure.
always,
And you guys
always,
do a great
always
job
interesting.
at at showcasing all those interesting facts. I was gonna see if you want to do a quick little lightning round with all the Ninja Turtles projects that have come out since the last movie. If you could maybe share an
Sure,
interesting fact or maybe something that'll be included in the documentary about each
sure.
project.
I'll do
So
my
I know.
best.
Oh, no worries. I saw you. I know you have Ciro Nieli involved, and I saw one of the
Yeah.
guys from Rises involved. So, like you mentioned, a lot of the classic guests and a lot of the new guests as well. Any interesting facts from the 2012 show?
Oh man, tons. Because I'll pick down to sort of an essence of one kind of core element is that Zero is the like, how would you put it? He's the core. It's an auteur vision in a sense because it is really narrows down to Zero. And one of the wonderful philosophies that Zero put into that, and he's a super talented animator, super talented storyteller, is that he really loved to add as much as he could a really handmade, hand drawn element into what is a CG show.
Hmm.
And a CG show is a hard thing to do for its own reasons because unlike a 2D show where you only see this much of the background behind a character's head, in a CG show you have to build a set, much
Hmm.
like you were building a live action set in a road and a street and cars and trees and people and extras and all that kind of thing. So whenever possible, Ciro would get in there himself because he's such a talented artist and draw things. And like those hand drawn things he would do in a meeting would sometimes turn into what you saw, literally the same scanned into the CG environment, the background, or the comic book that Michelangelo was holding a scene.
Yeah, I
That's like
love
literally Ciro's hand.
I love whenever they would do
So cool.
a flashback scene or the ending card. They
Yeah.
usually did a hand
Yep.
drawn thing. Love
Yeah.
2012. What about Rise of the
Yeah.
TMNT? An interesting fact from Rise of the TMNT.
I think that one of the interesting facts there, again, without giving too much away the content, is well, it's similar. It's some of the same creative team that came, one or two of the creative team that came off of Turtles 2012 went into Rise, and of course they're internally crossing over because they're developing and ending at the
Hmm.
same time, and for them there was a big challenge there because Zero really nailed a lot of really key, uh, really good design elements
Hmm.
in even the design of the turtles themselves. So that was a big challenge for them to go like, okay, Cyril kind of nailed the weighting of how the turtles look. So now we can't do the same thing.
Hmm.
We have to do something radically different.
Yeah.
So even the challenge that posed to them was was interesting. So I think that's a kind of a neat thing to look at how you have to. It's not easy to do this. You have to kind of grapple with and think about how does every element and how do you keep it as close as possible to what makes the turtles turtles, right?
Yeah, Rise was good. It was radically different, but it was good that
You
they
had to
were
be.
they were swinging for the fences, and it was nice
Yeah,
that it was radically different. It was
yeah,
a nice shakeup.
yeah.
What about Last Ronin? Last Ronin comic books. An interesting fact. Did you speak to any of them?
I have some of the guys on there. We actually, to be absolutely honest with you, we haven't edited much of that in because the third episode I've left open because we don't
Hmm.
know how we're going to end the series yet because we're still in flux. But
Have you
it's
spoken with
all
any of the Mutant Mayhem guys?
uh, no, no. Mutant Mayhem is still kind of in the background, but uh, no, the Ben Bishop is in there. He's a great guy,
Nice.
and Kevin's obviously in there too. Even because we've re-interviewed Kevin and Peter so many times over the years, but
Yeah, that's cool. The open-ended, the Last Ronin stuff is still ongoing as well. So it's still, who
yeah,
knows? You guys are just documenting history as it
as we
happens.
go,
So,
yeah,
um,
there's so much of it.
are you going to try and have this out before the 40th anniversary?
Well, to be absolutely honest with you, I would have loved to have it out this month, but
Mm.
that was my goal. But it's not always how Hollywood works. So as soon as humanly possible, I'll put it that way.
Oh wow! So you're trying to have it come out in conjunction with the new movie.
that was the goal. But it looks like there's a lot of turtle stuff happening after this new movie, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, they just announced a Mutant Mayhem sequel plus 2 seasons of a
Yeah,
TV series, so I think there's going to be a lot going on. We may get that live action Colin Jost movie in 2024 as well. I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah,
Um,
that's an interesting one. I hope so. I hope that happens.
well, that is so exciting. I don't want to press you too hard for all the spoilers. I'm going to see the movie either way, and I know there's a lot to look
Yeah.
forward to. You had in-depth coverage of the 2012 show Rise and the
Mhm.
Michael Bay movies. You said you weren't really too much on set.
No, we didn't get into that. It's a hard one, um, because while there's content to get, it's difficult because we're oftentimes walking this very specific tightrope between um, kind of expectations of what people want to see and also the expectation of what the say IP holders want to show or want to talk
Hmm.
about. Um, and not that we shy away from negativity per se, because that's just part of anything. There's critical response to things. Um, it wasn't something that so many people had a lot of nice things to say about. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
It's a hard one to. Yeah.
Even without behind the scenes coverage, there's enough to talk about the Michael Bay movies just from the outside. You don't need a backstage pass. There's enough to talk about.
Yeah,
Just
and we also try to be, um, we try to show respect to every iteration as much as possible. So it always comes down to, these are creative people working incredibly hard to do something, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and so you know,
yeah, even the
depends on what they can say.
even the less favorable, the less fan favorite versions still have something to be enjoyed. And even Next
Yeah,
Mutation, I'll say it.
yeah,
Shots
yeah,
fired. Next Mutation had some
yeah.
good ideas. They had some good stuff
And
going
we
on.
and
And
we go there in Next Mutation because Next Mutation plays a very 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 specific role and time and place for the evolution of the relationship with Kevin and Peter, and the evolution of the brand. So there is a very particular time and place that Next Mutation plays into. So that is covered for sure because we did find some of the people actually somehow knew some of the stuntmen as a child, but it was sort of bizarre that we knew them.
wow,
When I was a kid, it was like this guy is actually Michelangelo because it was shot in Canada, so some of the Canadian guys
yeah,
were over here in Toronto too. So
small world works out good for you.
hmm
Well, I gotta
hmm
say, I am very excited about Turtle Power 2. Or is that the name, or is it going to have that 3 part
uh,
name?
I think it's gonna have a funny three-part name. I actually don't know.
In the
we
promo
keep,
film, it
we,
was like TMNT mutation, evolution,
yeah,
re-evolution, or something.
that's that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think that's. Look at me promoting myself. I'm so stuck inside of it that I'm like, what do we call this thing? I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's in the teaser trailer. And yeah, you sneak out a teaser trailer in hopes that we can spread the word enough to push the powers that be enough to say, you put this out there. Let's all see it. You know.
Yeah, well, I'm telling all Ninja Turtles fans right now, this is the moment to be excited about. This is the time to get excited, spread the word about Turtle Power 2 or TMNT.
Yeah.
To be named. It's not even named yet. This DVD, this documentary, it's too hot to even be named yet. It's not even done being edited.
Yeah.
So check out the first documentary, Turtle Power, A Look Under the Shell, the definitive history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Make sure you check out Turtle Power and go find Definitive Film on Instagram. Check out definitivefilm.com for updates and make sure to keep your eyes peeled for the upcoming Turtle Power 2 documentary. Maybe it'll be on Paramount Plus, maybe it'll be somewhere else. Maybe you'll have to order it direct from Definitive Film, but whenever it comes out, however it comes out, it's going to be worth watching. It's going to be worth getting, and I'm excited for it, and I hope other Ninja Turtles fans are as well.
Well, I thank you. I think they should be because I mean we always try our best to bring stuff you've never seen before stuff, and I can say that there is stuff in here that no one has ever seen before, and angles and stories that nobody's ever talked about before, and try to give you that condensed down into here's everybody that we could get our hands on. So
Wow. Is there one just, shocking tidbit you could give us? Can you leak one detail from the movie just to wet everyone's whistle?
hmm, that's a hard one. I don't know if there's one shocking detail per se because it really a lot of the stuff is out there. Some of the most shocking stuff was actually in the first one, which I was always shocked that it wasn't as shocking as everybody thought it would be. But because there was stuff that was in there from the creation of the toy line that was never before seen. I think there's some cool stuff from Secret of the Use that nobody's ever seen, and just the inside workings of how some of these shows come together, because we were able to get kind of unprecedented access. I mean, some of the, again, we will actually, I'll say this, that there are things that you have seen that we have shown from the first documentary that we can show a lot more of. And I find them shocking, even though we've had them in our possession now for 15 years. We have the content from like Kevin and Peter's first meetings at Paramount, or at Playmates, and it's the first time they ever looked at those prototypes ever, and it was the first time that they were making decisions in that room about what characters would be the bad guys, what characters would be in the story, how would the story look. That to me was always, the coolest stuff, because you were literally a fly on the wall inside the decisions that were being made that would become what we know of the franchise. Because really, it's arguable that first cartoon and that toy line kind of set the stage, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that was history. That was history. That was
yeah, that made
magic.
canon. Yeah. And Playmates was not going to make Bebop and Rocksteady. They were not going to make um, a series of mutant animals. It was all going to be humans. All the bad guys were going to be humans.
Wow.
Wasn't going to be any mutant animals at all, and they were pushing hard against the mutant animal idea, which thank goodness Peter and Kevin won.
Wow. Yeah, so much history.
Because it would have been so weird. Like, I always sort of thought, because I mean, since our first film came out, Chris Fawcett's Rad Plastic book has come out, which was a fantastic book, and you can actually now sit with those drawings because they're in the first chapter of his book. And because when John Handy, when he sent us those drawings, nobody had ever seen them, so I knew they existed because they were in the footage that was Peter's footage. But if it wasn't for the footage and those drawings that John found in his garage, nobody would have ever noticed or seen what could have been. Like, there was a face in the wall of the sewer lair, and then that evolved into like a sludge monster. It looked like Jabba the Hutt. And that could have been the cartoon and the toys and everything in it. Maybe it would have failed. Maybe it
Wow.
wouldn't have worked had they gone that route.
Yeah, total
But that,
butterfly effect
yeah.
kind of thing. A lot of history,
Oh
and
yeah.
I
Oh
can't
yeah.
wait to
And I mean,
see.
then, yeah, like in those meetings, like Peters literally holds out a book and he's like, "These are some ideas I had for mutant characters," and there's Bebop, and he drew it. You're
Wow.
like, there it is, man, and that was smart.
Well, thanks again for speaking with me. I declare, I demand everyone should go check out Definitive Film right now and support this unreleased documentary about the turtles, and check out the Turtle Power documentary. Just wanted to say thanks again, Isaac, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Anytime. Let's chat again.
I will stop the recording and we could say goodbye. Thanks again.
Thanks.